My mom looked up at the TV over the bar last night. I was in the middle of telling her that I might want to go out to California and grow coca or do some illegal gold mining or something. Anything to try to make some fucking money. And she looked up at the TV and, recognizing his big blousy body, said, "Isn't that CC Sabathia?" This was a sign, too. A marvelous lightning flash. A great alphabet soup enema that dislodged a whole impacted mass of tedious, treacly anecdotes from the autobiography. My mom's unexpected recognition of CC Sabathia at the bar set off a wild ricocheting of my mind's eyeball and served as an anticoagulant to the end of Gone with the Mind, constituting an astonishing victory over the forces of, quote, storytelling, end of quote, the decadent pastime of white guard counter-revolutionaries. And this is exactly the sort of thing that keeps the mythic fire of my childhood vaporizer banked forever. Once, Samadhi and I were having a drink at the bar at the Four Seasons Hotel up on 57th Street near his old office. And he was saying to me, once they're diagnosed with cancer, they forget about the blueberries and come to me, referring, I think, to men who, when contemplating cancer in the abstract, are willing to consider all sorts of alternative treatment modalities, but when actually diagnosed with the actual disease in their actual bodies, want the fucking cavalry called in. Samadhi's a very interesting guy with a very Dickensian biography. He was born and raised in the Persian Jewish community of Iran, and then after the revolution, when he was only 15 years old, moved to London with his little brother, just the two of them, completely on their own. When I met him, he was the vice chair of the Department of Urology and the chief of robotics and minimally invasive surgery at Mount Sinai. And now he's at Lenox Hill Hospital, where he's the chair of urology and the chief of robotic surgery. In 2012 sometime, I don't remember the month, I was diagnosed with high-grade capsule-contained Gleason 7 prostate cancer. And I pretty much knew from the moment I first sat down in his exam room and we discussed my situation that I wanted him to perform the surgery. Of course, I got a second opinion. I went down to Johns Hopkins and consulted with a very renowned urologist down there. This is an episode that my mom and I have entitled, quote, "Finger Banged in Baltimore," end of quote. In addition to the eminent urologist, there seemed to be a veritable chorus line of interns. Half a dozen eager young men lined up, snapping on their latex gloves, waiting to stick their fingers up my ass. It was like being in some sort of sick Busby Berkeley routine with a Giorgio Moroder soundtrack. All the urologists I've ever met exude a certain morbid elan. After all, their beau geste is the digital rectal exam, DRE. I became so accustomed to the procedure that once I reflexively dropped my pants and bent over at the dentist's office, the hygienist looked at me like, "Dude, it's just a cleaning." But with Samadhi, there's a flamboyance, a swaggering fighter pilot sort of bravado that I responded to very keenly. He really does possess this imperturbable aplomb and a kind of, I don't know any other way to describe it, a kind of star quality that inspires absolute confidence. We're there at the Four Seasons at the bar, and he's explaining the anatomy to me, how the prostate is embedded within various crucial nerves that control urinary continence and erectile function. And he's joking with me that God put the prostate in such a difficult place in order to make it even harder for Samadhi, to challenge his virtuosity. But he said that Samadhi, was like Tom Cruise in that scene in Mission Impossible where, the guy's dangling in midair by the two wires and without triggering any of the laser sensors, hacks into the CIA computer. In other words, he stealthily enters the body, deftly, delicately removes the prostate, and gets out without so much as even grazing a single nerve, leaving you in full possession of your manhood and your dignity. I was so inspired by what he was saying, by his zeal, his steely self-possession, his sang-froid, that, and I'm not just being facetious here, I suggested we just go into the men's room and that he remove my prostate right then and there. That's how charismatic he is. That's the complete, absolute, let's do this allegiance he instills in his patients. Granted, I had several cocktails in me. I remember thinking to myself at Mount Sinai, just as they administered the anesthesia, if you end up incontinent and impotent, don't be a baby, deal with it. And then laughing. That would actually make you a baby. I mean, those are pretty much the two characteristics of a baby. And then waking up in what felt like an instant, an enormous pain, and with a catheter stuck in my dick and like 5 big holes in my belly like some innocent bystander in a drive-by. But the good news was, and I wouldn't know this for sure for a while, and I'm neither incontinent nor impotent. And all praise, all glory goes to David Samadi. I was extremely, fanatically devoted to doing my Kegel exercises, which one does post-surgery to ensure full restoration of urinary continence. I put my gym rat instincts, honed over the course of a lifetime, to good use here. I did those Kegels a dozen times a day, counted them off on a set of orange prayer beads that I bought just for that purpose. I still do them, a set in the morning and a set before I go to sleep at night. And now I have, and I say this with a complete lack of humility, the strongest urinary sphincter muscles in the world. I think they will long outlive the rest of my body. In fact, you know how people say that cockroaches will survive the nuclear Armageddon? I think cockroaches and my urinary sphincter will survive the nuclear Armageddon. And I think that, at some point, the cockroaches will ask my urinary sphincter to be their leader. I guess this is my own version of Manson's helter-skelter scenario.